Today, I'm joined by Andy Magowan, Hurtigruten's Head of Sales for Europe, Middle East and Africa. Is that correct? Job title for you there, Andy? Now,
good morning.
Andy, thanks for joining us today. For travel agents who aren't up to speed with the Hurtigruten brand, can you just give me a little bit of the history and its positioning today?
Yes, I mean, first of all, thanks for having me. It's great to be here talking about Hurtigruten. Hurtigruten, I'm supposed to say, of course, because of our Norwegian heritage.
Roll the R.
But yeah, Hurtigruten. But yes, we're 130-year history. I mean, Hurtigruten cut its teeth, all the way back when effectively keeping the north of Norway open through the winter. That's how it started all those years ago, where these incredible ships, a bit different to the ships we have today, were keeping all those ports open and everything else. And to a certain degree, at Hurtigruten now, we still do that. The Norwegian Coastal Express, as we now call it, where we have 8 ships now operating, runs all year round. And is very much our background, where, very port intensive, incredible experiences, particularly the further north that you go. And that's really where we started. It was, I mean, you could say years ago that it was a very smart ferry service, and to a certain degree that still operates that way, but it's clearly much more than that now. So that's the background. We are now 2 brands, which is coastal cruising, Norwegian Coastal Express, but latterly our focus is very much on expedition, and we have a separate brand, Hurtigruten Expeditions, funnily enough, that is very much our focus of the future. Norwegian Coastal Express will always be there. It's our key bread and butter, and it's incredibly popular. I can tell you more about that in a second, but the expeditions thing, which is global, is very much our future as well. So it's really very much about destination and immersing yourself in these incredible adventures. Wildlife, we're very green as well, and so it's about a sort of adventure, sustainability, and just reaching these parts of the world that other tour operators and cruise lines don't get to. That's really where our expertise is.
Before we get into detail about the product, can you tell us about the support and incentives available for the travel trade who are selling Hurtigruten cruises?
Yes, that's very important. We have a global sales reach, as you would expect. As you say, I look after Europe and the Middle East, which is very, very exciting. Very much growth markets for us. Clearly we pay good commissions, as you would expect. Whether your business is dynamic, or it's tour operator, or it's a general sales agent, or whatever, our commissions are reflective of that. Healthy commissions, actually, which are lucrative, because a vacation down to Antarctica is not inexpensive, shall we say. But I mean, it's the softer, more important stuff. We're very, very good on seminars and training and supporting people at events, because it is quite an interesting dynamic to communicate. We do fam trips. I mean, we haven't done for the last couple of years for fairly obvious reasons, but for 2023, we are planning on hosting some people both up on the Norwegian Coastal Express that we talked about earlier, and even as far afield as Antarctica, which is the one that I want to host, by the way. And
on the Connecting Travel Cruise Hub, people can get all the contact details. So any agents watching
this
can go to the Connecting Travel Hurtigruten page and contact you guys directly to find out how to express interest to be on the fam trips, and also how to connect with you guys and get working with you.
Absolutely. I mean, we welcome that, and very much so. And the other thing is, we have as you would expect, a B2B portal as well, that once you're registered with us as a travel partner, all the information is there. You can book online, and it's very interactive. There are even seminars and training, and as you would expect, all sorts of advice about destination and how to sell Hurtigruten online as well. But yes, I mean, we are available. There's 3 people in my team that are responsible for this, and we spend a disproportionate amount of our time doing training sessions and advising and supporting. But it's a growth part of the industry, I think, and that's very exciting to be part of.
And I think that's the thing, it requires a lot of training because it is very specialist and it is very different. So just to give me a brief glimpse, what kind of tips do you give to agents who are selling expedition, particularly to a cruiser who's trying it for the first time?
That's a very good question, actually, because you see, it's quite interesting this, because clearly we are a cruise line, but we don't position ourselves as anything like a traditional cruise operator. I mean, we have ships, so we cruise. So we're really a sort of destination-focused tour operator. And to answer your question specifically, I think for people that have cruised on perhaps big white ships or even on smaller luxury vessels, I think it's much more about I mean, cruising is about destination, it's about itineraries, of course it is, but that's so relevant to us. You know, if you're deciding that you want to go and experience Antarctica, for example, you've got to really understand that, you know, it's a long flight, we have incredible pre and post programs and all of that stuff that you would expect that you could do. But it's just, I think it's about researching the destination that you want to go to. You know, if you want to see polar bears, you've got to go north. If you want to see penguins, you've got to go south. And I'm being a bit dismissive, but I mean, those are the kind of questions we get sometimes. It can be as basic as that, but I would say this, it's as close to real adventure and exploration as you can get without being an explorer or an adventurer, right? And you know, we have expedition teams that provide that incredible experience. And again, just to take Antarctica as an example, you know, it's about sailing on. We have hybrid ship, which is not only green but makes the experience for the guests so much better, because we run silent, which means, you know, whales and, you know, penguins come up to the ship, and, you know, the Zodiac landings on the glaciers where you can get up close to penguins. I mean, that's about as real as it can get, you know what I mean? And and it's also, you know, the expedition team on board who do presentations and prepare you for what's there. You get a nice red jacket with expedition Hurtigruten written on it, and it's a great. So it's really about sitting, I think, to my trade partners, sitting your potential guests down and saying, where do you want to go? Let's talk about what part of the world you want to see. And you know, and also being brave enough to recommend it to what I call traditional cruise guests that may be looking for something a little bit different, you know, and I want to tick that box. And it's a very immersive experience, but it's and you know, for example, one other example I'll give you, Svalbard which is the part right up in the northern Arctic, and I think, you know, the most inhabited place on the planet in the north. You know, you can go there and we take you on a 2-day excursion out into the wilderness, and you can stay in a log cabin, and, you know, that's an optional excursion that you can buy. And you might see polar bears, but we don't go looking for polar bears. So it's trying to also get that balance right between this amazing experience, but sustaining it and clearly being safe. So it's pretty spectacular, actually.
It sounds like being inside of a David Attenborough documentary.
Yeah, well, actually, do you know what people say that to us, and it come back really, really kind of wowed about it. I mean, and I mean, even just on the Norwegian Coastal Express, which, you know, the Norwegian coastal voyages, effectively, you know, that's about seeing the Northern Lights, for example. You know, midnight sun in the summer, Northern Lights, and that I was lucky enough to do that back in March of this year. And the further north you go on that, it's an incredible experience. I mean, it's properly snowing. You see these beautiful villages that are only accessible by a vessel, hence the history of Norwegian coastal voyages. And you see the midnight sun, and you go on, you know, a very gentle hike, for example, with an expedition leader, and you see sea eagles, and you see this pristine wildlife that nobody's there because you can only access it on a Hurtigruten ship. So it's it's quite difficult to articulate how awesome it can be. So it's that kind of experience that has got to be, I think, articulated to the guest, and you know, it's really very special.
And clearly the focus is on nature, but can you tell me a little bit about the ship and facilities? So once you get back from these mind-blowing experience, what is the F&B like? What's the leisure facilities, the entertainment on board?
Well, that's a really good question, actually, because I mean, that's clearly, you know, we're in the hospitality, it's not just adventure, we're in the hospitality business too. I mean, you see, it's interesting. We don't have, and this is really important. We don't have, you know, sort of, you know, showgirls and comedians and cabaret and casinos, but we have, you know, incredible restaurants. We have all the facilities you would expect where you can sit and have a drink, and there's a lot of interactivity on board as well. I mean, on the expedition ships, particularly on the new one, the Amundsen and the Nansen, the hybrid ships, you know, there's sort of, you know, working laboratories where guests can get involved with the expedition team and analyze stuff that has been found or is relevant to the itinerary. But the F&B experience, I mean, the service is incredible. Lots of fresh seafood and you know, local produce, particularly on the Norwegian coastal voyage, where, you know, I saw that, you know, seeing provisions being taken on in the local ports, you know, fresh vegetables, fresh salmon caught locally. I mean, it's amazing. So that part really delivers too, and it's a great question, actually, because the trouble with adventure is sometimes it can conjure up, you know, it's a bit of a chore, and it really isn't. So it's a good question. Yeah, exactly. So you get back and the comforts, but I mean, if you want, you know, if you want a coastal production, or you want, a coastal production, a full show or any of that, that's not what we're about. It's about everything that goes on board is relevant to the experience, but the food and the service is and the hospitality is really good.
And finally, any other things that you can reveal about the 130th anniversary next year?
I think there will be, well, I know there will be further announcements about, which we alluded to a little earlier, there'll be further announcements about new destinations. Actually, there's new destinations. I can't share that with you now, particularly on the expedition front. You know, more geographical locations that will be added. There will be all sorts of celebrations on board. All guests, this is an interesting one. All guests will be given £130 onboard credit, just as a kind of recognition. There'll be celebration expedition jackets and clothing that will be part of the package, but it's really about using it as a launch pad, the 130-year anniversary, that is, to sort of push forward. I think you'll see some new branding and some new destinations coming forward on the expedition side. So that's really very exciting, actually. I'm
looking forward to sharing the news as and when we can. Andy Magowan, Hurtigruten Group, Head of Sales for Africa, Middle East.
Very good.
Thank you very much for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.